Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be part of this masterclass. Today, I'm sharing with you some tips on how to nourish yourself naturally, some simple nutrition strategies to help you during menopause. And what we'll cover today would be how our hormones are affected during menopause, what is digestion and what affects it, some of the nutritional needs for women, how do we build a balanced plate, some meal prep tips, especially when you're busy, the importance of mindful eating, and then we'll take some questions. So my name is Lisa Feveck. I'm in Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. So if you notice, my accent is different from everyone else's. I'm a dietitian, a certified diabetes educator, an author, and a coach. And my focus is really on perimenopause and menopause. And what I look at what we call the more holistic aspects, nutrition, physical activity, and that mindset aspect. I'm certainly not against medication. In fact, hormone replacement therapy has been shown to be safe and effective for menopausal symptoms. But for me, and I think my colleagues on the masterclass will agree, no matter if you're choosing to use medication or not, your foundation should always be those lifestyle choices. It goes back to that foundation of good nutrition, how much physical activity you're getting during the day, are we reducing stress, what's our mindset like? So today I want to touch more on that nutritional aspect. So what is happening during our menopausal journey? Well, our ovaries are producing less of those hormones, especially estrogen, progesterone. We're having hormonal fluctuations, shifts. So we're starting to see weird symptoms, changes in weight, in energy, or mood, or sleep. And there are over 100 symptoms of menopause. So I have this AI diagram here just to show you, it starts from the top of your head, it works your way down to the bottom of your feet. Every aspect of your life is affected by menopause. And some of the hormones that are affected more are things like estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, so that's stress hormone, and insulin. So a lot of my clients starting to have uncontrolled blood sugars, they're even getting type 2 diabetes just because they're in menopause. So why even talk about good nutrition? So like we said, we're starting to see low energy, fatigue, changes in weight. So a lot of my clients may experience weight gain, but some experience weight loss. Different types of cravings that they never had, or maybe they had during pregnancy. Challenges with sleep, with mood, with anxiety. Even suicidal thoughts can come up. So that is why we must have a good foundation during our menopausal journey. And nutrition is certainly a way that could help with that. So let's take a look at what happens when we eat food. So we take a bite of our favorite sandwich, it gets chewed in our mouth, so it starts to break down, and digestion actually starts in the mouth. Enzymes start to work on your starches, so it starts in the mouth. You swallow, it goes into your stomach, it gets broken down more, we kill off some bacteria, goes into the intestines, and nutrients are absorbed in the intestines. So when we're eating, blood flow actually is redirected to our intestines. And then we have the release of different types of hormones that help us absorb nutrients and do other things in the body. But when we're stressed, this is where digestion can be affected, because when we're stressed, we're releasing something called cortisol, the flight or fight hormone, right? That stress hormone that tells the body, hey, we need to start doing different things. So blood flow actually is redirected away from the intestines and goes to your hands, your feet, your brain, because it's expecting you to run or to fight. But when we're stressed, and let's say we're trying to finish a report, or we're maybe having an argument with our partner, our body doesn't realize, okay, we don't really need to run and fight at this point, right? But if we're stressed and we're trying to eat at the same time, this is where things go negatively, because our body is redirecting blood flow away from digestion, away from our intestines, so we don't absorb nutrients properly. Maybe we don't even get blood sugars around the body properly. We start storing everything as fat. And this is where eating mindfully comes in, which I'll talk about later. Also, stress affects something called the gut-brain connection. And we'll see in a bit that the gut plays a direct role in how our mood is and how every aspect of our well-being is. So let's meet the gut. It's also called the second brain. And we're finding more and more through research that our gut plays such an important aspect in well-being. So there is a direct communication between our brain and our gut, right? We have nerves, we have chemicals, neurotransmitters that are produced in the gut to send messages to and from the brain on how our body should operate. And in the gut, there's something called the gut microbiome. And that microbiome is just a fancy way of saying community. So in the gut, there's a community of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and other things that live in the gut. It's supposed to be there. But what we want is a balance. And when we say balance, we mean we want more good gut bacteria than bad gut bacteria. We want the ones that promote health. We want the ones that make our feel-good hormones. So it goes to mood swings, reducing anxiety, reducing depression. We want those that support immunity and reduce inflammation. So reducing things like cardiovascular disease, we commonly call it heart disease, types of cancers, even getting the flu and how often you get it. All of that is affected by the gut. Or stress levels or sleep. So many women in menopause complain about sleep and they don't realize that a lot of it has to do with gut bacteria. So sometimes when you're stressed, you might get that stomach ache or those sort of butterflies in your stomach. That's your gut telling you something. So it means that when we're talking about nourishing our body, it means gut bacteria plays a part. So some of the signs that our gut needs extra support. We may get bloating, diarrhea, gas, constipation. We may suddenly have intense cravings for different foods. We may have brain fog, memory loss, mood changes. So 1 minute we're angry, the next minute we're sad, and we're not really sure why. Low resilience to colds and flus. We may find, I know outside the cold season, the flu season, we may always get in these flus and we don't know why. All of those things are menopausal symptoms, but it's also an indication that, okay, we need to start changing something to support our body in the right way. So some of the foods that can harm gut health and harm that good gut bacteria, but also promotes the growth of bad gut bacteria. So one, the high sugar snacks, the drinks, the nice like frappuccinos and the lattes, they may taste great. And I'm not saying that you can't have them, but reduce the amount of times you're having them for the week, because high sugar increases inflammation and disease risk. Also, ultra-processed foods. And what I mean by that are those that are stripped of nutrients, high in salt, high in sugar. Now, all our foods are processed. Unless you're going into the garden and picking everything and eating directly from your garden, all foods are processed. And some processed foods are actually good for us. So, for example, tomato sauce or pasta sauce, cooked tomatoes, those can be good for us. Having things like canned beans, once we rinse the liquid off, that could be a good option, especially since we're very busy. We're trying to get good nutrition in, and sometimes convenience and cost plays a role. But we don't want to depend too much on those ultra-processed foods. Refined carbs, so carbs or carb-rich foods that are low in fiber. The reason why we say to eat whole grains is because we're looking for more fiber. Fiber controls blood sugar. And in menopause, just being in menopause, our blood sugars become uncontrolled. The release of insulin becomes uncontrolled. So the more whole grain foods we eat are better for us. Alcohol. So alcohol, so including that glass of wine at night, it may be damaging our gut lining, especially if we're eating the other food. So I'm not saying that you can't enjoy that glass of wine with dinner, but for the day, what are we doing overall? So if we're eating a lot of high sugar foods, a lot of ultra processed foods, and then we add alcohol on top of it, we could be damaging the gut lining. We could be killing off the good gut bacteria and encouraging the growth of the bad gut bacteria. Also, red meat, processed meat, again, is the amount. The dose makes the poison, right? So if we're eating a lot of it consistently and not eating enough of the right foods, that could also cause a problem. So foods that help with gut health, all plant foods, right? So you see, I haven't really specified which plant foods. All of them can help because all of them are rich in fiber. Your fermented foods, so yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut. I love sauerkraut and kimchi, right? Those are foods, if we add a little bit every day to our lunch and our dinner, those promote the growth of good gut bacteria. It doesn't take a lot. Healthy fats, nuts, all of those seeds. So I know a lot of the internet talks about almonds and walnuts, but pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, all our seeds have not just the healthy fats, but protein, omega-3s, and so many other nutrients. Olives and avocados. So you'll see here, I don't really have olive oil or avocado oil. Nothing is wrong with using it, but we must use it sparingly because oil, it's high in calories. So if we're talking weight management, the oils aren't the best choice. The better choice will be olives and avocados because you're not just getting the fats out of it, you're getting all the nutrients, the fiber, etc., etc. Polyphenol-rich foods, so those are your dark berries, your dark chocolate, your green tea, right? So yes, you can have chocolate. The better choice is your dark chocolate, and the darker the better. So you look for the percentage cacao listed. The higher the percentage, better for you. And then your prebiotic foods. So you want foods that promote the growth of that good bacteria. And what foods can do that? Garlic, onions, even dandelion greens, dandelion green tea as well can do that. What are some of the nutritional needs that are specific to women? So iron is important, especially if we're still in perimenopause. So we're still having a menstrual cycle. It prevents things like anemia and it helps with energy levels. Omega-3s. Omega-3s are extremely important. Unfortunately, our bodies don't absorb omega-3s well from food. So of course, we start with the foundation of food, but particularly omega-3s, I recommend taking a supplement every day or every other day, just because our body doesn't absorb it well. So we want to give our bodies the best chance for absorbing omega-3s. Sorry, my brain is working faster than my mouth. Also magnesium. Magnesium, I know a lot of times we're hearing magnesium for sleep, but magnesium is important for over 300 processes in the body. So magnesium is extremely important. And something as simple as your pumpkin seed, adding pumpkin seeds to your salad, or let's say having a snack with yogurt, just throwing a tablespoon of pumpkin seeds can help with magnesium. Phytoestrogens, I'll talk about that in a further slide, but this is important when we're talking hormonal balance. Of course, if you're allergic to phytoestrogen-rich foods, you have to look for another option. But generally speaking, when we're talking about helping with menopausal symptoms, phytoestrogen-rich foods are where we start. Fiber. So I know the internet, all we're talking about is protein. Yes, protein is important. But when you check globally why people are dying, why there's an increased risk of heart disease, diabetes, certain cancers, the answer isn't a lack of protein, it's a lack of fiber. So we want to eat more fiber-rich food. And then calcium and vitamin D, those two go together. And That's important for so many things, including bone health. Right now, all of these you get from your plant food. So again, that's why nutrition is your foundation. And then if you're not getting enough, then you add those supplements. So when we talk about a menopause diet, there's no such thing really as a menopause diet. But these are the foods you should start with as your foundation. So first, your fruits and vegetables, and look at all those colors. To me, that puts a smile on my face. The vibrant, rich colors. That is what you want on your plate. Lean protein. So yes, this is where chicken and fish can come in. I'm not saying you can't have red meat, but you use it sparingly because menopause raises your risk for heart disease. And in fact, when we're going into menopause, our risk for heart disease shoots up higher than a man's risk. So we want to have foods and lifestyle choices that reduce that risk. Right? So you've seen their eggs, you've seen their peas, beans, nuts, right? So those are the foods we focus on first. Healthy fats, those are for energy and for creation of cells. So we want to make sure we have fats in our diet. Whole grains, so again, we're talking fiber, slow release of energy, feeling full longer. Hydration. So we'll touch on hydration in a bit, but I wanted to put it here because a lot of times we think of the food part and we forget we need water. Plain, simple water is important, right? And then our herbs and spices. I know a lot of us look at herbs and spices as things to flavor our food, but there's so much nutrients in herbs and spices that we need to include that into our diet. So when we're talking building a balanced plate, I want you to look at, yes, this is an AI drawing, but look at the colors, look at the vibrancy. This is how I want you to start picturing your meals. So when you're cooking, when you're even plating, you want to have it look good because we eat with our eyes first. And then when we think back to that slide on digestion, what that's saying we eat with our eyes first is our trigger to our body to start redirecting blood to the intestines, releasing important enzymes and hormones. So we want our food to look and smell inviting. So not as for our palates, but for our body to signal, okay, hey, it's time to eat. Let's reduce that stress and focus on that nutrients from foods. So yes, fruits and vegetables, choose a variety of colors. We're looking at protein, so peas, beans, fatty fish, salmon, mackerel, tuna, chicken breast. So I put chicken breast because it has the least amount of fat. Not that you can't eat the other parts of the chicken, but if we're talking weight management, chicken breast is the best bet. And I have here tofu as well because it's easy and accessible. Whole grain rich foods, fiber rich foods, so your brown rice, whole grain pasta, sourdough bread, quinoa. Healthy fats, again, focus on the whole food. It's not that you can't take a little olive oil to cook with or maybe make a salad dressing, but your focus, let it be on the whole food for all those nutrients it comes with. And then phytoestrogen. So when we talk phytoestrogen rich foods, we're looking at soybeans, edamame, soy milk, tofu, but we're also looking at ground flax seeds and sesame seeds as well. So why am I talking about phytoestrogen rich foods? Because if we're losing estrogen, and estrogen plays such a big part in all of our body processes, then we want to put back some of that estrogen as best as we can to help reduce those symptoms. So we're talking about if we have severe hot flashes, phytoestrogen rich foods can help with that. Support for bone mineral density. So bone loss is very prevalent as we get older. So eating more phytoestrogen rich foods can help. Also things like heart disease, reduction of heart disease, reduction of type 2 diabetes, all of those are helped with these foods. Mood, brain fog. So again, we're talking menopausal symptoms. If we include these foods more into our diet, so even if it's a little bit every day, it does help with that reduction in symptoms. So when we're talking about building that plate, what does that actually look like? So I got this picture off the internet. Actually, no, this is mine. The other ones are off the internet. Right, so half the plate, so this is your plate here. Half your plate, you want it to be vegetables. A mix of raw and cooked veggies. Some foods, let's say lettuce, cucumbers, are better if eaten raw. Some foods like broccoli, cauliflower, they're better if they're cooked a little bit. So a stir fry or a steam, because that helps release the nutrient. Tomatoes, if we eat raw tomatoes, we get vitamin C. If we eat cooked tomatoes, we get lycopene. So some foods, if you cook them, they release other nutrients that you need. Quarter of your plate should be protein. And I would always suggest starting with a couple, let's say half cup of some type of peas or beans. Your body loves variety, so mix it every 2 days, 3 days, try a different type of bean or peas. And then if you choose to eat meat, then I would add a slice of fish or chicken breast or something like that. But my foundation, and what I'm suggesting your foundation should be, is starting with peas or beans. And then quarter of your plate should be carbohydrates, and that's your fiber-rich food. So whether you choose brown rice or whole grain pasta or bread or oats, that's where it comes in. Now, if I don't have, let's say, brown rice, I only have access to white rice or parboiled rice or a different type of rice that has less fiber, then what I can do is add something to the rice to give it more fiber. So it doesn't mean I have to spend extra money, because I know sometimes these things can be more expensive, but I can use what I have and bump up the fiber. So let's say I can't find whole wheat pasta anywhere, and I have regular pasta. I can add tomatoes, I can grate carrots, I can chop up squash to increase the fiber of that meal. So this is something I found off the internet. And I want you to look at half the plate is vegetables, yes, but look at the colors, look at the vibrancy, right? Notice the avocado is there. It's not a lot, but it's there for the healthy fats. Some vitamins and minerals in your veggies are water soluble. Some are fat soluble. So you need the fat. So it's not a good idea to cut out all fat from your diet. You will actually be losing nutrients if you do that. So every time you're having vegetables, include some source of fat. So this could be pumpkin seeds. This could be olives. It could even be a teaspoon of olive oil if I choose to, or a salad dressing, or oil-based salad dressing. But I'm suggesting start with your whole foods. Make sure there's a source of healthy fats. Quarter of your plate is protein. Now, for me, this chicken looks a little sad. I wouldn't do it like this, right? So maybe I would have done something baked, and I would have thrown in some onions or some tomatoes or some bell peppers with it. Maybe do a nice stir fry. This rice also looks a little sad to me. So again, throw in some colors. And this is a good way to use up vegetables that are going bad. So I either freeze it for a smoothie or I throw it in while I'm cooking. So if I have some carrots that are going a little bad, I chop them up and I throw it into my rice. When we're talking colors and vegetables, that vibrancy, there are groups of colors that we should cover, if not every day, by the end of the week. And there's a reason why we put them into these colors, because each color, the foods in that color group have the same vitamins and minerals. So the ones in the red and pink group are very unique and different to the ones in the green group. So it's important that we cover all 5 colors. And this is a good way if we have children. And sometimes, you know, when I was younger, my mom used to force me to eat pumpkin and I really didn't like it. But if we eat from the color group, if I don't like pumpkin, I can eat carrots or yellow bell peppers, because I get the same type of nutrients there, right? So by the end of the week, Make sure you have something from the blue and purple group. That's one color. The red and pink group. Orange and yellow. The white. So white will be cauliflower, garlic and onions fall there as well. Mushrooms. And the green group. And notice from the list, it gives you examples of fruits and vegetables. So your fruits and veggies, although we're talking eat your colors, we want to cover all 5 main groups. Hydration is important as well for so many reasons. For good digestion, your cells need water for their processes. To get rid of toxins, we need more water. But it doesn't have to be plain water. It can be infused with fruits, with veggies, with herbs, with tea bags. So I know the internet talks about lemon water. No, you cannot lose weight from drinking lemon water directly. That's not how it works. But if you drink more lemon water, it helps your body with that process to lose weight, right? It helps with your liver, and then your liver does what it needs to do to help you lose weight. So it's an indirect way. But this doesn't have to be lemon. It could be cucumber slices. It could be berries, mint leaves, basil leaves. What I like to do, because I'm in the Caribbean and it gets hot in the afternoon, I fill a jug with water and I put tea bags. So I look for flavored tea bags. I'm not adding sugar. So I'll get like a mango flavor and I will add 1 tea bag mango. And next one I will add ginger in the same jug. So I'll mix flavors. So in the afternoon, it will feel like I'm drinking an iced tea, but there's no added sugar, but it helps with the hydration. It helps with those hot flashes and cooling down the body. Right? Herbal teas, you don't have to drink it hot. You can drink it cold as well. And you don't need to boil the water, put the tea bag, let it draw, and then put it in the fridge to thing. You can do it directly. So the same jug, fill them with tea bags and just leave it in the fridge and you'll see the tea actually drawing out into the water. Right, so my fridge has infused water, herbal teas because I drink throughout the day. Don't forget also veggies and fruits are filled with water as well. So this is another reason why we should be eating these foods. Right, so it's a good snack. It's good for children as well. Make it look cute. Chop it up into nice little sticks, or maybe get those cookie cutters, those different shaped cookies cutters. And you could let them do it as well. Let them create the shapes so that when they need to reach for a snack, they can open the fridge and they put it on a low shelf and they get those as well. Right, and then we want to limit the sugary drinks, the coffee and alcohol. But notice I said limit. I didn't say takeout. Life is meant to be lived. And yes, we're talking nutrients, but it's also a mental health aspect for it. If your cup of coffee, your frappuccino, latte, whatever it is, brings you that joy, and the speaker before me talked a lot about joy, that is my mental health break. So what I tell my clients, and it's something I do myself, I will start off the day with green tea, a cup of warm green tea. I prefer to start with warm in the morning because it helps with my digestion. If I take it cold, I will feel nauseous. So warm works best for me in the morning. And then around 10 o'clock, that's my mental health break. So I will have my nice frappuccino and I will go outside and take a look at the sky and the sun and the trees and notice the breeze on my hair. You know, that's my mental health break. But I'm not studying, oh my God, this coffee has so many calories and I'll gain weight. No, I'm not thinking about that because I'm not taking it for nutrients. I'm taking it as my joy for that day. But I have the coffee in the morning because for most people, if we drink coffee in the afternoon, it disrupts sleep. And remember, we said menopause already disrupts sleep. So we don't want to do anything that adds to that. Alcohol, for some women, alcohol actually triggers hot flashes. If we are higher risk for things like cancers, heart disease, I would suggest limiting the amount of alcohol you use and have it earlier in the day so that it doesn't disrupt sleep as well. But this is where writing down your symptoms and tracking your symptoms helps because I would know, okay, I drink my glass of red wine let's say at 6 p.m., and by 8 p.m., I'm noticing hot flashes. Okay, so maybe the alcohol is not a good time. Let me try it early in the day. Or let me try it once a week, right? For some women, they can drink it and nothing happens. For others, instant hot flashes, right? So we need to recall and we need to be mindful of what we're doing. Right, so we talked about herbs and spices, and it's so important. So whether it's fresh, whether it's dried, it's important. And I think we should use a mix of it to get different nutrients. So it does a lot more than flavor, but it certainly adds flavor without those extra calories. So I wouldn't look for something like basil salt or celery salt. Not that you can't use it, but I prefer to limit the amount of salt and bump up the natural herbs and spices. Right? So I am looking, look at the amount of colors there as well, right? That makes me happy. So I'm looking for different colors. I'm experimenting with different cuisines as well. I'm looking at Indian cuisine and African because their recipes include so much other spices. So I will go to my local Asian supermarket and find something there and then go on YouTube and look for a nice recipe, a nice video that includes it. So one, I'm never bored. Two, cooking is interesting now. And for me, it quiets my mind. So that positivity comes when I'm cooking. And then I'm getting the health benefits, the antioxidants, the anti-inflammatories. Because remember, menopause, it increases inflammation and increases risk for disease, especially heart disease. So we want to include as many foods, herbs, spices that can reduce that risk. Also, blood sugar regulation. So things like cinnamon helps with regulating blood sugar. And then again, to help grow that good gut bacteria. So think turmeric, ginger, garlic, nutmeg, cardamom. I mean, there's so many. Let this be a time of curiosity and experimentation. And if you don't like something, okay, I won't use it next time. I'm going to try something else. So how does this actually look on a plate? So remember we talked about having veggies on your plate, protein, and some source of fiber-rich carbs. So let's start in the middle. Half your plate, vegetables. And if you could notice, there's a mix of raw and cooked. Quarter of your plate protein, so they have a chicken breast. And quarter of your plate are fiber-rich carbs. So here they're doing a roasted sweet potatoes. And then we also need a source of healthy fats to absorb those nutrients in the veggies, right? Remember, some are fat soluble. Otherwise, you'll just pass it out. So here they're doing a salad dressing, but they actually, this recipe here was taking cashews, soaking it in water to get soft, blending it, and then adding herbs and spices. And on the top, they have a little bit of hemp seeds, again, for that healthy fats, omega-3. Right? So this is what your plate should look like. For breakfast, same thing. So the egg is protein, the avocado, healthy fat, your sourdough bread, your fiber-rich carb. But for me, yes, there's arugula there, but it's not enough veggies. So for this, I would add a side salad to this. Or maybe a small smoothie that's very veggie-rich with a little bit of fruits. For your snacks, same idea. The yogurt is your source of good protein. Also has healthy fats in there as well. I have some berries. That's my carbs. So I'm getting my energy. I'm getting nutrients, antioxidants. And then if you notice, they also have a mix of nuts and seeds there. So if I have time, this is what my meal would look like. What about if I don't have a lot of time? Can I do the same thing? Yes. So we can talk about doing wraps, doing sandwiches. Same thing, protein, veggies, source of fat. For breakfast, we're doing crackers. Peanut butter is my protein and healthy fat there. I'm making sure I have some veggie sticks. That's my source of fiber. My snacks, same thing. Dates are a little different to fruit. You don't actually get a sugar spike with fruit, with dates, sorry. Different types of dates, experiment. And here they've added walnuts as their healthy fats and carbs. So if I'm rushing out the house, I can do little Ziploc bags or little containers with these snacks and always have them in my drawer or my lunch bag. Even if I don't have time to make a quick lunch, I can certainly buy a wrap somewhere, right? And I could also have crackers in my desk. I could walk with peanut butter in a little jar and have that for breakfast at work. So when we're talking, okay, meal prepping, especially if I don't have time, but I want to make sure I have all the nutrients on my plate, how do I do that? One, it takes some planning. Planning, so we're look at the sales that are around us. So check out the groceries and the supermarkets that you shop at. When are their sales? Is it every week? Is it every month? So I'm planning around those because I want to save some money as well. But also when I'm planning for the week, what am I doing this week? Okay, on Monday, I have a meeting with my boss. I'm not going to have a lot of time to prep something there, so maybe I'll walk with a sandwich. But I know my boss is going to piss me off. I'm going to feel for a cookie. I'm going to feel for something. Okay, so when I shop on Saturday or Sunday, I'm going to buy a little pack of chocolate chip cookies as my mental health break after that meeting. So I plan it and I pack it in my lunch. So I'm controlling the amount I'm carrying. So I'm not going to leave the office and start looking for stuff to buy because I'm going to be stressed. I'm going to actually plan it. Okay, Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday, my child has soccer practice. They're going to want snacks. I'm going to want snacks. I'm not going to have a lot of time when I come home in the evening to prep. What can I make? Okay, so Monday afternoon, I'm going to start making a large meal and portion it out for the rest of the week because I know Wednesday I'm not going to have time. Right? So I'm not thinking just what do I feel like eating? I'm looking at my week. Where's my time? Where I have little time, where I have more time, and then I'm shifting things, and that's how I plan how I'm prepping meals. Batch cooking can help a lot, especially if we're busy. So there's a saying, cook once, eat twice. So if I batch cook, let's say on Sunday, I make a roasted chicken. So I have the chicken breasts. I may have the legs for lunch. I can take that chicken breast and slice it for sandwiches. I can make chicken salad. I can use the bones and make a soup. So I'm using all of it. I'm not wasting anything, but I'm using it in different meals. So whether you bake a chicken or you go to the same supermarket and you buy a rotisserie chicken, is the same idea. So what I suggest is making 2 sources of carbs and 2 sources of protein. And I mix and match for the week. So I can do baked chicken or baked fish, and I can do some beans on the stove. And those beans can go for a wrap, it can go in a Buddha bowl, it can go in a salad. I can take those beans and some chicken and put it together for a soup, right? So I'm just doing 2 things, but I can mix and match. 2 sources of carb, I can do rice and I can do potatoes. Same thing, I could take those potatoes, air fry it for 1 meal, chop it up and do it in a soup for another meal, right? So think about what is easiest for you, what equipment you have, and then figure out, okay, what can I do this week that will make it easier for me? And whether it's a stir fry, a salad, make sure I can make it in different ways. And then when it comes to snack, because we get peckish in between meals, okay, I'm going to the supermarket, there's a sale on strawberries. I'm going to make sure and get that. Most supermarkets have an online presence. They have a social media page, and they will tell you when their sales are. So I'm going to go through the list and see what's going to work for me. So I'm going to save money and save time as well. Just wanted to touch a little bit on mindful eating because that is a lot to do with stress. Remember we talked about if we're stressed, our body actually prepares for that stress and moves us away from digestion. So it moves that blood flow away from our intestines so we don't absorb nutrients properly. But if we're eating mindfully, it makes us stop and pause. Why am I eating? How am I eating? So it moves away from that emotional response that could go to stress to a more calm state. So we want to reduce stress, promote calm, promote gratitude, that joy, and makes us have a more a closer relationship to food, what I think is important. So let's start observing our food. So this means we have to make sure we have good food. Cook with lots of herbs and spices, cook with a lot of colors. So that when we sit and we have the plate, we start to observe. Feel the plate, is it warm? Does everything taste? What are the textures, the aromas? Take a moment to be grateful that we have a meal in the first place. Things are getting really difficult for all of us. So that idea of a prayer before a meal or a moment of gratitude before a meal helps with that reducing stress and makes us actually digest and absorb nutrients better. Eating slowly, so coming off the phone. Let's take half an hour and just give our brain, our eyes a moment. Come off the phone, switch off the television. Maybe put on some music in the background and just focus on food and on chewing and on enjoying our meal. Right? So I think, yes, it's for nutrients, but food should be enjoyable. Life is too short. Let's take a moment to enjoy what we're eating. And it goes to that emotional well-being, gratefulness, reducing stress, coming from a place of joy and gratitude, or physical well-being also, because if we're absorbing nutrients properly, it means when we move to physical activity, it will be better. When we move to sleep, it will be better because we're getting more nutrients. Moving to a place of less mood swings, the brain fog, even things like confidence and things like that, because it helps with weight management. It helps with better skin, better hair, better nails, right? So good nutrition and eating it mindfully helps with all aspects of our health and well-being. Right, so just touching on some of the things we learned today, we want to focus on a balanced diet, but that is rich in plant-based foods. We want to eat more foods that actually promote a healthy gut because as we learn, your gut is directly responsible for those mood swings, for how you feel, how you show up every day for people, right? And then even if I'm stressed and I don't have time, what's one thing I could add to my plate? What's one thing I could throw into my lunch bag? Can I take some fruits? Can I chop up a cucumber quickly? Can I take some lettuce leaves and break it off of the lettuce and wash it at work, right? It could be as simple as that. Right, so I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Cindy, for including me in your wonderful masterclass. If you're looking for me on social media, you just type Lisa the Menopause Dietitian. By the time you reach menopause, my name will show up. And don't forget to look at the goodie bag. I know everyone has given such wonderful gifts to this masterclass. So look out for mine, which we talk a little bit about meal prepping. I have a planner that gives more information on how you go about that meal prepping process. Thank you so much, and I'll take questions if you all have any.
Well, I want to thank you for a comprehensive. I think that you were just not as generous as you could have been with the takeaways. So you had really brought everything from color in their diet to how to make life easier for yourself, but you
Yeah,
also emphasize things like the microbiome and how that affects our health.
yeah.
But if you could give just one tip to people that are suffering all the various menopause symptoms when it comes to, their diet, what would that be?
I think not to beat up yourself and focus on what you're not doing. focus on what you can do. So that last tip I talked about, what's one thing I could add to my plate today? I think that's a good way to frame it. So if one thing I could do is have some lettuce, have a smoothie, maybe have an apple. If that's the bare minimum you can do, I think focus on that and count that as a win. So when I'm talking to clients, I'm not focused on what they're doing wrong or what they're not doing right. What is one thing you did today? I drank an extra glass of water. I had an extra cup of tea. I calmed myself before eating. Focus on the one little thing you can do every day and build on it. And that's where I would start.
Anyone else have any questions? That I think it was probably so comprehensive, but I think Teresa does.
Oh,
Lisa, I just want to say, Joyce sort of twigged my interest, and you have expanded that. I have some lettuce. I will eat it before it goes in the compost.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you for the excellent ideas for meal prepping, because there's always, especially when we already have busy lives, there's already the part where, how can you eat well? Can you give me more ideas? Can you give me more ideas of meals? Your visuals were amazing. So thank you, because instead of saying it's impossible to eat better, it's doable to eat
Yeah.
better and eat as healthy as possible. So thank you. That was great.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to stop the recording now.
Okay.